We're getting into the work of water. Water and grief is so important as well in our work. And preparing for this, there's so much energy. When you're doing this kind of deep journeying into something like grief, also very similar to working with anger, there's all this energy, and the energy is not just the emotion itself, but it's everything that flows into this emotion, everything that this experience is holding, right? This is all, it can feel like a kind of density and a heaviness. And this is why we're starting with calling in the waters right now, the waters to move, to flow, to hold, to expand, to distribute, right? I'm calling in the medicines of one of my medicine traditions, which is the Dagara tradition, but to open our access to the waters, right, through this practice so that we can call on the waters to help us move deeper into this journey, which is really moving deeper into a relationship with our own brokenheartedness as well. And so when you're preparing for something like this, as someone who holds and tends to ceremony and ritual spaces, you're beginning to early on begin to start working with the energy that everyone will be bringing into the space. So the work for the ceremony has already began, right? So coming into the space, you can feel a lot of obstacles coming into the space because there's a lot of energy, like things stop working, right? Time slips away, right? And what you learn as a ceremony leader is to not react, but just to hold it, right? To practice a lot of patience and to allow whatever is happening to happen, to allow whatever is happening to happen. And this is part of our kind of colonizing our work, particularly our spiritual practice. The spiritual practice and the spirit world, as we're going to get into in our session today, is not on our timeline. Grief isn't on our timeline. And so instead of attempting to dominate or subjugate these energies, we actually begin to partner with these energies to actually develop this kind of collaborative relationship, which will mean that you won't get what you want, right? But instead, you begin to open to what is needed, right? To move into ceremony, to move into ritual work, you're moving into this deep, fluid relationship with spirit, right? To the spirit world, to the unseen, right? And so we have to suspend a little bit of our kind of anxieties and our desire to fix things, to manipulate things in order to allow whatever is arising to arise. And the water element is such a profound teacher in supporting us in this training of allowing and being with, right? There's an ease that the waters are asking us to open into, right? The importance of water, how the water element, like all the elements, pervades so much of not just our lives, but our bodies. Are you living near waters? Because in this tradition, we talk about the wild waters, not the water that we're getting from the tap, right? But the waters we go to, the oceans, the lakes, the streams, even the puddles, the rain. These are the wild waters, the waters that are still deeply connected to their original source, right? And when I call in the waters, what I begin to feel is a little bit of chill. The waters are chilly for me. The energy of water, the consciousness of water, it feels like just like a cold stream moving through my body. So just noticing whatever arises as we begin, calling into our practice the sacred waters. And we reflect in this opening practice just how the waters are asking us to really just practice this ease, this opening, to let the water flow through our experience, through our minds, through our bodies, through our space. And so when you're ready, I invite all of us to start calling ourselves into the space, right? So we begin to notice the weight of our bodies and the seat rising to hold us. We connect to the earth, the land as the mother who's rising to support all of us, no matter where we are in the world. As we think about the earth, we are touching the earth. And then we allow the earth to touch us back. We call ourselves in from the past. We call ourselves in from the future. We invite ourselves to settle into the space of this moment, where we are indeed meeting many truths, where we're beginning to notice maybe things and experiences that we habitually avoid. And once we feel connected and rooted, we begin to set the intention for our practice. And the ultimate intention is to practice getting free in order to help all beings get free. This is the awakening of bodhicitta in Buddhist practice, which is that essentially everything that we do, say, or think is aligned with not just our reduction of suffering and liberation, but also the reduction of suffering and the freedom and liberation of all beings. May every breath I take be offered to the liberation of all beings. May every thought be dedicated to the freedom of all beings. May everything that I do or say be an offering towards getting all of us free. This is how we slowly become the medicine, that we become an agent of liberation for all beings. And one of my personal aspirations here is that may I learn to grieve on behalf of all beings. May I take on the grief of all beings. And as we enter into this water ceremony, may the waters support me as I take on the grief of all the beings across all the worlds and times and dimensions. And may the sacred waters rise to hold this grief and to clear this grief through our experience so that we no longer feel consumed by the grief,